Alright, girls, got your seats? Alright, we are going to review plagiarism. We talked, Chris, I need you in your seat. We talked yesterday, was it yesterday we went out to the hall and looked at what we had researched and we posted on our sites? Okay, and we talked about how my first goal was that you were able to pick the right information that addresses whatever focus we have for our research, the targeted research. Because we have to be able to have good information, right? And one thing that we have to keep in mind is that we need to go to the right places to get good information, right? And how we'll actually, throughout the rest of this quarter and definitely the rest of your middle school and even in high school, continue learning about how to really find the very best sources, whether it's internet sources or print sources. And so we're not going to focus on that right now because what have I been doing for you in your research? Each day you go where?
You go to
your usual sites,
right.
You have like a spot for.
I have already chosen some good. I've done that first thing of choosing a good site or a few sites for you to look at. So you know you're going to get good information. And then we practice with our text mapping technique, how to read that and skim that so that we can find evidence, examples, facts, statistics, information that is directly related to our focus for the day. And you can usually see that with the headings and the topic sentence to see, ooh, does that relate to what I'm supposed to be researching? If it does, then you continue in those paragraphs to look for your examples and your evidence and your facts. And then the next step that I said we were doing, and we're actually posting it out on our Auschwitz fence, was what? What do you do with that information?
You put it into notes.
You put it into notes and then share it. How do we share it?
You write it on this piece of another photo sheet in our own.
Okay, that's how we've been doing it. Yes, and putting it in your own words. What's the word that I've been using? Articulate, right. I want you to articulate your understanding.
No plagiarism.
Okay, no plagiarism. So when we present that, and Xander said in his own words, when we articulate that in our own words, we have to make sure we don't plagiarize. And that's the law. So, and all eyes up here. I want us to talk about what plagiarism is. And we did this a little bit yesterday, but I want you to understand that there's a spectrum or a continuum of plagiarism where all of you know. Chris, I need your attention. Close it, please. Graham. Close the books. Because I'm doing something really special here. I expect everyone's attention. Okay, so the spectrum or the continuum of plagiarism goes from what you guys know is obvious. Somebody said it the other day, cut and paste, right? What does that mean, to cut and paste?
Plagiarism.
Okay, plagiarism, but what does it mean?
That means you're basically taking exactly what they do and putting it and saying,
right, or copy and paste really is what I meant to say.
It's not original.
Right, it's not your original, it's someone else's. And does that mean only if you, well actually, instead of asking you this question, I'm going to give you an example of something that I experienced a number of years ago with one of my freshmen. He had given me a paper, and it was obvious plagiarism. And when I called him on it, I showed him his paper, and I showed him the website where it was exactly what he wrote. I mean, there wasn't anything different to it, and I thought he had just copied and pasted. Well, no. Now that I remember, I could tell that he didn't copy and paste because there were typos, there were misspelled words. So when I called him on it and showed him what the website was and what his essay was, he said, "But I didn't copy and paste." And because he was refusing to believe that he had plagiarized because I didn't copy and paste. And he was adamant. I mean, he was almost in tears that he didn't copy and paste. What was his understanding of plagiarism?
Copy and paste is technically plagiarism.
But if you typed it out,
It wasn't.
then it wasn't copy and paste, it wasn't plagiarism. Plagiarism doesn't just mean highlight, command, or command or control C, copy, and command V, Velcro it in. That's not what plagiarism is. It's using it, whether you type it, whether you type part of it, when you copy part of it and paste it. It's if you use someone else's ideas without.
But let's say it's a gift for what's the credit.
Okay, we'll talk about that because so we know that there's obvious plagiarism, and sometimes people have other people write their papers, or they buy someone else's paper, or they get a paper from off the internet. That's obvious, blatant plagiarism. But on the other end of the spectrum, there's a whole bunch in between. And one, like you said, is it plagiarism if you cite the source?
Yes, if you use the exact words without quoting.
Ooh, without the quotes. So you might copy and paste someone's words, type it in, someone's words, and then at the end of the paper, on your works cited, or what sometimes is called a bibliography, you put the website, and you think, oh, I'm good. Well, how does a person know what in your essay came from that person?
Exactly. You could highlight it.
Okay, you can highlight it. And the way we highlight it is by putting quotes around it. You're right.
Or you could highlight it and put quotes on it.
Right. You don't have, technically, I mean, the proper formatted way is to just put quotations around it. But what if you use someone's ideas? You find them, you pick them from what you read here, and you go, that's good. And then you put it into your own words. It wasn't information that you knew, but now that you've read it, you know it, and you put it into your own words, and you even give someone at the end of the paper the citation or the credit for it. Is it plagiarism?
No.
Yeah. If you still don't say what part of that new information was from that person, it's technically legally plagiarism. So you have to, any new information that wasn't yours originally, you have to mention the author's name or put in parentheses behind that name. So there's a whole bunch of ways. Even just plain a typo of forgetting a quotation mark could technically be plagiarism. So they go from a very, very obvious blatant to just a mistake and a typo can be plagiarism. So we have to keep our brains aware of what's going on. Okay, so now that we know that, let's move on to how we present it. We know that we have to be legal about it. So the purpose of research comes into mind. And I want to share with you another story about another student. We were doing a research project on careers. And this is an intelligent student. She didn't often do her work like she should, even though she had tons of talent. And she turned in a paper that was really good. And I knew that she was capable of having a really good paper. But I could tell they weren't her words because there were tons of phrases that weren't the way she spoke. And there were some words that I knew she wouldn't have used, and there were no quotations around them. And teachers just plain know. We can tell the way you usually write, and then all of a sudden, if what you produce for us in a formal paper is totally different, teachers know that. So I checked, and it's very simple to check by just copying a little bit of it, pasting it in Google, and you find exactly where she got it, or you can find 1.7 million places that she could have gotten it from, because the internet is full of plagiarism. But just because other people plagiarize or other people have lots of information out there that they're sharing, doesn't mean that we can do that. Because we need to know what is right, love what is right, and do what is right, just like it says in the point. So we need to be right, whether it's something we get from the internet, or I'm going to give you one more before I continue on with this other example. Even if you get an idea from something someone says, if you get someone told you information and you're going to write it in your report or your essay, you need to give them credit. And here's an example that I do all the time. In fourth and fifth period, I have Miss Huddleston in here. And there are many times when I'll be teaching something, especially in our reading class, and she'll stop and she'll either give a really good example, or she'll just give some good information. I'm like, oh, wow, that's good. And so I share that information in seventh period because it was so good I wanted to share it. But I don't in my head go, "Ooh, that was good, I should have thought of that, I'm gonna use that," and then just act like it's mine when I share it or use it in 7th period. What I do is, when the time comes up and I want to share it, I say, in 4th period today, Mrs. Huddleston had a really good example of this, and then I share it. But I give her credit first, because I know that's right. It wasn't my idea. And I love what is right, and so I try to do what is right all the time. Even giving her credit, even though she didn't have it in writing, it wasn't published, it was just something she shared. But it wasn't my idea. So I wanted to share it, giving her credit. Okay, so yes.
Or even if they say something and it gives you a totally different idea, it's still plagiarism if you don't give them at least some credit.
Right, because you got that idea, or the original part of that idea from them. Yeah, good. All right, so back to this girl who had plagiarized. When I could tell that she had plagiarized, I saw tons of plagiarism in there. So I actually decided I'm going to find out how much of her entire essay, which was like 4 pages long, how much of it was plagiarized and how much of it was her own. And when I did all of the checks, 87% of the words that she had in there were someone else's. 87%. Only 13% were her ideas. And when I text mapped it out basically, I could see that the only words that were hers were when she transitioned to a new point that was from someone else. So she did a lot of work in putting the pieces together. But what she ended up giving me was a combination, a puzzle of someone else's ideas. So what we're going to talk about is the real purpose of research. So I want to give you a little example here. When you look for your facts, your info, your evidence, it's like picking fruit. You have to pick the right fruit. And this is valuable, wonderful stuff that we are adding to our ideas and our understanding about research. But when we get that info, sometimes, well, I'll start here. Sometimes there are little facts that are kind of obvious, and you go, oh, that's a good fact. Ooh, that's good. I understand it right away. Whole pieces, you can just use those totally. Like, I understand that. And then there's some pieces that are a little bigger. You might have to go, oh, okay, I've got to chew on that a little bit. Break this up. I got to understand it a little bit. You've got to work a little bit to break it up and understand it, right? Because sometimes you read that and you go, oh, wait a minute, and you got to read it again, right? Because you didn't totally understand it, so you kind of chew on it. And you add that to your facts. You chewed on it a little, broken it up a little bit so it's understandable. But there's others, maybe you have a whole paragraph that you thought, ooh, I know that's related to my research. And there's a whole great big paragraph, and I'm like, oh my word, I didn't understand any of it. What do you have to do with that?
Chop it up.
You gotta chop it up, you gotta analyze it, you gotta cut it into pieces. So that, because you can't, you don't pick an apple and then just do that to it, do you?
You wash it.
Yes. Well, you have to wash it first, yes. Washing it first is like making sure that it's clean, good, quality stuff. Okay, so we would cut this up so that we can understand it. Cut it into smaller pieces, we analyze it, and that helps us to understand it.
This is a cooking show.
It's like a cooking show, yes.
It's a cooking show, and now we're cooking with Miss Hartley.
And, okay, there's a bad spot. You know what? That information I didn't need. It wasn't appropriate to what I'm doing. So I'm going to cut that out. Because we don't want information that doesn't help us, right? We only want the good information. And then we have to cut it down into size that we understand.
There's a bad spot.
Now, okay. So now, I think I've got information here that goes directly to my research topic. Or maybe I have specific research questions that I need to answer. Or maybe you have a science question or a social studies question that you've been asked to give your understanding of. What is the answer? You might have to look for that answer. And instead of just copying it down, you actually cut it down and try to understand it. Put it into your own words, right? You try to understand it, you break it down. Okay, break it down.
Why are you putting food in front of us?
I didn't eat breakfast up at the
Okay, so now, I've got all this information cut up just like that student did that had 87% of her words, somebody else's. She rearranged it, she put it all together, she dressed it up nicely. It was like a 5-star fruit salad. It was one nice looking fruit salad that she gave me. But do you think I asked her for a fruit salad?
No.
No, I don't want you to find information, to cut it up and rearrange it. Let me show you this.
I ordered a cheeseburger.
Thank you for picking up on that. What I ordered. Yes, remember when we had our expert essay?
Oh,
How about you ordered
that burger over there.
That's
Okay, so when we're researching, I'm just gonna go through this first. When we're researching, we start off with the whole information, just like we did there, from someone else. We begin by picking the information that is appropriate to our research focus. Then it's necessary to analyze it, cut it up, analyze the information so we understand it, and then to synthesize it, put it together, and use the information in our own way, and still maintain the meaning within our new text. But it's important to understand that we can't just cut that up, rearrange it, and maybe add in a few different pieces. Maybe I should add in some pretty, add in a kiwi of my own. Or maybe I should add some pretty dressing on this. And that's kind of like replacing words. Like, oh, I'll take out that big word that Mrs. Hartwig would probably notice that I didn't know, and I'll put a synonym in there. Okay? Stuff like that is just rearranging it. Because then it's still someone else's information, just in a different order or with a few different words. It's not your understanding. Because it's just a fruit salad. But what I have ordered, just like I picked up on, is that instead we need to put it into the blender of our brain, mix it up. Okay? So I want all those facts. I want to know that you know all these facts. And then I also want you to add your own knowledge, your own experience, your own insight that will put it all together, smooth it all out.
That was what we did like discussion to eat.
I want you to make it smooth by you putting in your ideas, your knowledge, your experience, your insight, okay? That's what connects it and smooths it out and makes it yours. But then, I also want you to firm it up. You gotta put some logic in there to firm it up. You've gotta have good stuff in there. Logic that proves that you really understand this and it can be firm and stand up on its own. And then, once you get that all together, I want you to blend it up to make your own creation that proves to me that you know what you're talking about. Because I didn't order a fruit salad. What I ordered
Was a fruit smoothie.
was a fruit smoothie. Stay with me, would you? Oh, is the door closed so that we won't have, okay. So, now I get what I ordered. I get fruit smoothie, something that's a new creation that proves to me that it's got all of your understanding.
Can we have it? I didn't eat breakfast. I mean, I'm not eating.
And I will talk to their period when you come back.
I'm not eating that.
I wonder how not eating today. I bet it tastes kind of weird. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't put my honey in. Yeah, or give it my own personality, my own unique interests. We're gonna be like in class. The powers.
Well, I
Touch my
put the
handcuffs.
rest of this in the refrigerator maybe.
So you got it?
Yeah.
What say that? No, I don't want to do that.
Oh,
No. I don't want to.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
Come on. They want to erase.
Ah, oh, the eyes. I got braces.
Castle, can I have some?
I don't know, can you?
We're in this class.
Let's do it.
We're in this class. I think I'm just like that. Thank you, Miss Hartwig.
You're welcome.
Do you have extras, Castle?
No, you'll get your stuff. Where are all of you going with this today? They-
Choir. I'm not going to choir.
Okay.
I'm gonna take like class. Four girls are going to choir.
This is my second smoking today.
Did
You dropped out on purpose.
Maddie.
Rena, me,
Drink it.
Kayla. Rosie, are you going?
No.
Yeah.
Wait,
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
No.
What's the big maple with that? That's
Who else is going to this?
I'm just gonna see. Is that barbecue sauce?
This is,
Oh, it's barbecue sauce, no, dude. Come here, just maybe put your. I know.
is it really?
I used to be a pro away.
In study hall with Miss
I just popped up.
One.
Hi. Oh, good.
Forgot that in my
Yes,
bag.
thank you. You're coming. You're welcome.